Mila had stopped expecting answers from the night. In daylight, she managed everything. The pharmacy shift, the school chats, the bills paid in careful fragments. At night, when the building settled and the city went thin, one thought returned like a bruise you can't stop touching. Her mother was forgetting. Not in dramatic scenes, just keys in the refrigerator, the kettle left boiling until the metal blued, names slipping away like soap. Ol still insisted on cooking borscht, still told Mila, don't fuss. Mila said she wasn't fussing while her hands shook. That Wednesday was worse. Ol wandered outside in slippers, convinced she had to meet her sister at the station. The sister had been dead for 16 years. Mila found her 2 blocks away at a bus stop in drizzle, staring down the street as if time would correct itself. Afterward, Ol sat on the sofa and watched the TV without seeing it. Mila made tea and pretended she wasn't terrified. At 3:17, Mila woke to the doorbell. Not the buzzer downstairs, the actual bell on their door. No one used it. The bell rang again, once, then silence. Mila lay still. First thought, Ol was confused and trying to leave. Second, a drunk neighbor. Third, ridiculous and immediate. Something had finally come to take what was already slipping away. She padded into the hall. Ol's door was closed. No movement inside. The bell rang a third time, soft and patient. Mila opened the door a crack, chain on. A woman stood in the corridor. Ordinary at first glance. Dark hair pulled back, plain coat, bare hands. No glow, no halo. Yet the hallway felt quieter around her, as if the building's hum had been turned down. I'm sorry, the woman said, voice low. May I speak with you? Mila's throat tightened. Who are you? The woman's gaze held steady, kind without demand. Someone who heard you. Mila almost laughed. She never prayed. But earlier, after the bus stop incident, she had sat in the bathroom and pressed her forehead to her hands until tears slipped between her fingers, thinking, with a drowning kind of desperation, please. Anyone. Help me keep her safe. Now the stranger stood there at 3:17 like the night had carried an answer in human shape. I can't let you in, Mila said. I understand, the woman replied. Then let me speak from here. She glanced toward Ol's room. She wakes in fear, she said gently. She thinks she's late. She thinks she's lost someone. Mila's stomach dropped. How do you know that? She is not late, the woman said. And she is not alone. The words should have sounded rehearsed. They didn't. They sounded like the simplest truth. Ol's door creaked open. Ol stood there in her nightgown, hair loose, eyes fogged with sleep. Mila? Who is it? Mila turned. Mom, go back to bed. Ol blinked at the woman. Then her face changed, not into recognition, exactly, but into relief, as if a tight band around her ribs had loosened. Oh, Ol whispered. You came. The woman smiled, small and private. Yes. Mila's skin prickled. Mom, do you know her? Ol took one slow step forward. I don't know, she said, touching her chest as if checking that her heart was still there. But I know I'm safe. Mila looked between them. Let me sit with her until morning, the woman said to Mila. You can keep the chain. You can watch. Whatever makes you feel in control. Logic screamed. Strangers didn't arrive at 3:17 with impossible knowledge. But Ol was calmer than Mila had seen her in months, breathing like someone who had finally found the right room. Mila opened the door wider, only a little. The chain stayed on. The woman stepped inside with quietness that made the hall feel sacred. She didn't look around. She simply offered her arm. Ol took it like it was natural. And Mila, standing there, felt something she hadn't felt since childhood, an irrational, trembling hope, like a candle refusing to go out tonight. The woman did not remove her coat. She sat at the kitchen table beside Ol as if she had always known where the cups were kept. Mila stood near the doorway, arms crossed, every nerve alert. The clock above the stove ticked loudly. 3:26. What is your name? Mila asked. The woman looked at her gently. You already know it. Mila felt a flicker of irritation. I don't. You have said it before, the woman replied. Even if you don't remember. Ol reached for the woman's hand. Her fingers, usually restless, were still. I kept missing the train, Ol murmured. Every night I was late. You were never late, the woman said softly. You were afraid. Mila pulled out a chair, but didn't sit. My mother has memory loss. She mixes things up. Please don't encourage it. The woman nodded, not offended. Fear grows louder when memory grows thin, she said. It convinces the heart that it has forgotten love. Ol closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her cheeks without drama, like rain sliding down glass. Mila's voice trembled despite her effort. Can you fix it? There it was, the question she never dared say aloud to doctors. The woman did not answer immediately. Instead, she reached toward the counter where Mila had left the kettle earlier that evening. She poured water into a mug without checking where it was kept. Steam rose gently. No, she said at last. I will not fix it. The words hit Mila harder than she expected. But I will help you carry it. Silence settled into the kitchen, thick but not heavy. Ol lifted her head. I don't want to forget her, she whispered, looking at Mila. I don't want to wake up and not know my own child. The woman turned to Ol fully now. You will not forget love, she said. Even when names disappear, love remains. It is not stored in memory the way you think. Mila felt her throat close. How do you know that? She asked. The woman's eyes held something ancient and calm. Because I have stood beside many beds, she said quietly. I have watched children hold mothers, and mothers hold children. I have seen names fade while love stayed. Ol's breathing slowed. The tension in her shoulders eased. Mila noticed something then. The apartment felt different. Not brighter, not glowing, just quieter. The hum of the refrigerator seemed distant. The building no longer creaked. Why are you here? Mila whispered. Because you asked, the woman said simply. Mila remembered the bathroom floor, the cold tiles beneath her knees, the words she had never meant to say out loud. Please, anyone. I don't pray, Mila said defensively. The woman's smile deepened. You did. Ol leaned her head against the woman's shoulder like a child. For a moment Mila panicked. This was too intimate, too fast, but her mother's face looked peaceful. Not confused, not searching, peaceful. The woman spoke again, her voice low and steady. Tomorrow will still be difficult. There will still be questions and moments of forgetting. I am not here to remove the road ahead. Then what are you doing? Mila asked. I am reminding you that you do not walk it alone. Ol opened her eyes and looked at Mila clearly, clearer than she had in weeks. Mila, she said softly, using her name without hesitation. You are tired. The simple recognition cracked something open inside Mila. She sank into the chair across from them and covered her face with her hands. I'm scared, she admitted. The woman reached across the table and touched Mila's wrist lightly. It was not a dramatic touch. No surge of heat, no flash of light. But Mila felt steadier. You are allowed to be afraid, the woman said. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is staying. Ol squeezed the woman's hand once, then slowly released it. I think I can sleep now, she said. The woman stood and walked her gently to the bedroom. Mila followed, watching closely, half expecting the corridor to dissolve into dream. Ol lay down without protest. Within minutes, her breathing deepened. Mila stepped back into the kitchen. The woman stood by the window, looking out at the quiet street. Will you stay? Mila asked. The woman turned toward her. I will always come when called, she said. And for the first time, Mila dared to ask the question forming in her heart. Are you, Mary? The woman did not answer directly, but in her eyes was the softness of someone who had once held the world's greatest sorrow and did not turn away from it. Mila understood, and the kitchen light burned gently until morning. Mila must have slept at the table. When she opened her eyes, pale light was pushing through the kitchen window. The clock read 7:42. For a moment she thought the night had been a stress-born hallucination. The chair across from her was empty. No coat on the hook. No unfamiliar shoes by the door. The chain was still fastened. Her stomach tightened. She stood quickly and went to Ol's room. Her mother was awake, sitting up in bed, sunlight resting across her blanket. She looked calm, not confused, not searching the corners for something missing. Mila, Ol said clearly. You look like you didn't sleep. Mila froze. The clarity in her voice was unmistakable. You know me? Mila asked before she could stop herself. Ol smiled faintly. Of course I know you. Don't be silly. Tears burned Mila's eyes. She stepped closer cautiously, afraid the moment would collapse if she moved too fast. How do you feel? Mila whispered. Ol paused, searching inward. Tired, she admitted. But lighter, as if I set something down. Mila sat on the edge of the bed. Do you remember last night? Ol's brow furrowed slightly. I remember, someone kind. She touched her chest absently. She told me I wasn't late. Mila's breath caught. What else? She asked. Ol shook her head slowly. It feels like a dream, but not a frightening one. The clarity faded a little, not into confusion, but into gentleness. Mila recognized it. The delicate balance her mother now lived inside. Present, but fragile. Mila stood and walked back to the kitchen. The apartment felt ordinary again. The refrigerator hummed. Pipes clicked in the walls. Morning traffic drifted up faintly from the street. On the table sat 2 mugs. Mila stared at them. She was certain she had washed everything before bed. One mug held only a faint ring of dried tea. Her hands trembled. She picked it up. It was warm. Not hot. Not freshly poured. Just warm enough to make her breath catch. She pressed her palm to it and closed her eyes. "You're not alone," the woman had said. Mila carried the mug to the sink carefully, as though it might vanish if she moved too abruptly. All morning, something subtle lingered, not a presence in the room, but a steadiness inside her ribs. When Ole forgot where she had placed her glasses, Mila did not snap. When Ole repeated the same question twice, Mila answered without the edge of exhaustion. It wasn't that the illness had disappeared. It hadn't. But the panic had loosened its grip. At noon, Mila's phone rang. It was the neurologist's office. "We had a cancellation," the nurse said. "If you can bring your mother this afternoon, we can see her sooner than expected." Mila nearly dropped the phone. They had been waiting 3 months for an appointment. "Yes," she said quickly. "Yes, we can come." After she hung up, she leaned against the counter and let out a shaky breath. Coincidence, she told herself. Just coincidence. But something inside her recognized the rhythm of the past 12 hours. How despair had reached its peak, how the doorbell had rung, how help had arrived not by erasing the problem, but by making the burden lighter to carry. Later, at the clinic, Ole sat quietly while the neurologist asked questions. Mila answered carefully. Tests were ordered. Adjustments discussed. When they left, Ole squeezed her hand. "I'm not afraid today," her mother said. Mila looked at her. "Why?" she asked softly. Ole smiled faintly, as if recalling something just out of reach. "Because someone reminded me that love doesn't get lost." Mila's chest tightened. That evening, after dinner, Mila stood alone by the kitchen window. The sky had turned the soft gray blue of early spring. She whispered into the quiet room. "Thank you." There was no knock at the door this time. No sudden shift in air. Only the faintest sensation of warmth at her back, like someone standing just behind her shoulder. Not to take over, not to fix, but to remain. Mila understood something then. Mary had not come to perform a miracle. She had come to teach Mila how to stay when staying felt impossible. And that kind of help did not disappear with daylight. The weeks that followed were not easy. The neurologist confirmed what Mila already knew. Early-stage dementia. Medication might slow it. Routines would help. Patience would matter most. Patience. The word sounded simple in the doctor's office. It felt heavier at home. There were still mornings when Ole forgot where she was. Still afternoons when she called Mila by her sister's name. Still nights when shadows confused her and fear crept back into her eyes. Mary did not return at 3:17. There were no more doorbells in the night. And yet something had changed. The first real test came on a rainy Tuesday. Ole became agitated, insisting she had to pick up the baby. There was no baby. There hadn't been for decades. Mila felt the old panic rising, the familiar exhaustion threatening to spill over into anger. "Mom, there is no baby," she started to say sharply. Then she stopped. She remembered the kitchen table, the woman's steady gaze. The words, "Courage is staying." Mila knelt in front of her mother instead of arguing. "Tell me about the baby," she said gently. Ole blinked, confused by the softness. "She's small," Ole whispered. "She cries if I'm late." Mila took her mother's hands. "You're not late," she said carefully. "You're right here." Ole's breathing slowed. The storm inside her passed without breaking anything. Later that evening, Mila realized what had happened. The illness had not changed, but her response had. That night, after Ole fell asleep, Mila stood alone in the hallway where the stranger had once stood. She touched the door handle, remembering the feeling of hesitation before she opened it. "You said you would come when called," Mila whispered. She didn't expect an answer, but she didn't feel foolish either. Because she understood now, Mary's help had not been about spectacle. It had not been about reversing disease or suspending reality. It had been about presence. About entering a kitchen at 3:17 and showing a frightened daughter that love does not evaporate when memory fades. In the months that followed, small mercies continued. The medications stabilized Ol's worst confusion. A neighbor offered to sit with her twice a week so Mila could rest. A support group opened nearby, and Mila found herself speaking honestly for the first time without shame. Once, during a meeting, another caregiver broke down crying. "I can't do this anymore," the woman said. Mila surprised herself by moving closer and taking her hand. "You can," Mila said quietly. "You don't have to be fearless. You just have to stay." As the words left her mouth, she recognized them. Not hers originally. Given. One evening in early summer, Mila sat beside Ol on a park bench. The trees were full and green. Children ran across the grass. The world looked ordinary and full of motion. Ol leaned her head on Mila's shoulder. "Are we late?" she asked softly. Mila smiled. "No," she said. "We're right on time." Ol closed her eyes, peaceful. Mila looked up at the sky, not searching, not pleading, just acknowledging. She understood now that miracles are often misunderstood. They are not always cures. Sometimes they are clarity. Sometimes they are strength placed quietly inside a tired heart. Sometimes they are a knock at the door at 3:17 that teaches you how to answer the next 1,000 nights alone. Mila never saw the woman again. But on certain evenings, when the apartment grew still and fear threatened to return, she felt that same gentle steadiness in the room. Not dramatic, not visible, just present. And that was enough. Because Mary had not come to remove suffering. She had come to remind Mila that love remains, even when memory does not, even when strength falters, even when the night feels endless. And with that reminder, Mila could stay. And staying, she learned, was its own kind of miracle.